On this entry of the STEM journals, I meet rock stars, the rock hounds, and take a spin on the rock cycle. Ever since I was little, the natural world has always fascinated me. Exciting discoveries and mind-blowing things are revealed every day. And I'm learning there's a lot more to do than sitting in a cubicle or wearing a pocket protector. My mission? To explore and journalize real careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. These are the STEM journals. That's me back when I was in 7th grade. I seem to have matured a lot quicker than everyone else, hence the beard. Right after lunch, I had science class with Mrs. Hornberger.
Okay, who's ready to get down and dirty with some earth science this afternoon?
She was a bit wacky. Her outfits always looked like she took every curtain out of a house from the 1970s and sewed them all together herself.
Sedimentary rocks are like the layers in Earth's most delicious sandwich.
I think she may have been exposed to a few too many vapors from the chemistry lab. But the great thing about Mrs. Hornberger was, she took it upon herself to drag me out of my post-lunch nap by waking up my brain with all kinds of interesting facts and questions about science. One day, I went on a tater tot eating binge in the cafeteria and I was suffering from carb overload. Mrs. Hornberger was lecturing about the wonders of rocks when she caught me dozing at my desk.
You need to wake up, young man. You're missing out on important information here.
I knew she was about to make an example out of me in front of the entire class.
Sleeping during my class? Mr. Picciarello, do you have rocks in your head?
You know what, Mrs. Hornberger? That's actually a really good question. Okay, so I never really thought that there were rocks in my head. I mean, I understand that minerals are an important part of the human body. I also understand that minerals form rocks like letters form words. So I gotta find out some more about them. I'm gonna start by talking to 2 geologists from ASU. Okay, so I understand that geology is this study of Earth, but what does that mean for me, or like an everyday people?
You imply that geologists aren't normal, everyday people.
I didn't say it.
We are, in fact. Where do you get copper from?
Copper store?
Rocks. So geologists know what rocks have copper in them, what type of setting you need to actually find copper, and you mine it, you pull it out, and it goes into houses, and that's how you can turn your lights on.
Brad, you would be amazed at the way geology affects your everyday life. I mean, think about the gas you put in your car. That's the result of the work of a geologist. The makeup that women wear, all those sparkles, that's mica. That's also the work of a geologist. Geology is everywhere.
What specifically about geology made you want to become a geologist?
Well, one of the most exciting things about being a geologist is actually getting to go out and look at the rocks. So fieldwork is one of the most amazing things. Being outside, being in the field, I basically get paid to go camping for a few months out of the year.
Awesome.
Right? It's spectacular.
So have you always wanted to be a geologist? Like, what made you want to become a geologist?
No, in fact, I didn't know that you could even do geology as a career. I took a class in college and thought it was just the most fascinating thing that I'd ever heard. It was like the mystery of the earth just opened up. It was so interesting. And now I get to go out and follow all these clues to really learn what the rocks are trying to tell me. Rocks are like books, and if you can learn to read them, you can read the whole history of the earth. We don't know all there is to know about the earth. There's still a lot of mysteries to be uncovered, and I get to be a part of that. I can go out every day and learn things that nobody else has ever figured out before. It's really, really exciting.
It's like putting together the world's hugest puzzle.
Absolutely, and I am a geologic detective. Those rocks over there were formed on a beach, so I know the kind of environment that this stuff was deposited in. This was a beach environment, beach over there, and the ocean over here.
When people see a rock sitting around, most people think it's just a rock, but a geologist says, how did that get here?
I see a bunch of rocks laying on top of each other with no rhyme or reason, with a couple trees thrown in.
Yep.
Through a geologist's eyes, can you tell me a little bit what I'm looking at? I mean, how did that even happen?
As a geologist, we tend to work backwards. So these rocks are sitting in here like this. So they actually most likely began life horizontal when they were originally deposited. And when we actually look at the type of rock, well, that happens to be a sedimentary rock. And when you actually get into the details of where those sediments were deposited, interestingly, these rocks actually formed on the bottom of the ocean from sediments that were shed off the continent and something happened to it to where it's sitting tilted like this. And they're quite old. They're actually almost 1.5 billion years old, if not a little bit older than that.
Kate, all that sounds so cool and you seem super passionate about it, but when you start using words like sedimentary rocks, you just lose me.
Well, lucky for you, in your journal here, I just sent you a video that details the different rock types.
Perfect.
I'm Dr. Proctor, and today we're going to talk about igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks. Igneous rocks are awesome because they form from fire. When a volcano erupts, the molten rock is referred to as lava. That same molten rock below the Earth's surface is called magma. When magma cools underground, it forms an intrusive igneous rock similar to what we have behind me. This is granite. When you come across an igneous rock that has large crystals in it that you can see like this one, that means it cooled from magma underground. When a magma cools slowly, that gives the crystals time to grow and become big enough to see with your naked eye. This granite behind me actually formed at depth from magma underground. That means it's solidified into a rock down in the earth. So you have to ask yourself, how did it get exposed here? Well, tectonic forces came along and uplifted this whole region. When lava comes into contact with air and water at the Earth's surface, it forms extrusive igneous rocks. These rocks form quickly, and as a result, if you want to see the minerals in the rock, you'll need a microscope. Metamorphism means to change. When you take a rock that already exists, say igneous or sedimentary, and you add heat and pressure, it actually metamorphoses or changes into a metamorphic rock. No matter how much I squeeze this rock, I can't cause it to change. So you gotta imagine what causes these layers. It's a tremendous amount of pressure that's created underneath big mountain ranges. Over here, we've got this amazing, beautiful, light-colored granite. It's an igneous rock. Over here, we have this dark-colored, metamorphic rock we call gneiss. And 11 miles down the road, we've got sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are my all-time favorite rocks because they tell us about the Earth's history. Each layer gives us insight into the type of environment that used to exist here in the past. Sedimentary rocks form from the compaction and lithification of sediment. Lithification is simply the process of taking loose material and rock, compacting it down into the earth, and then nature's own glue will lithify it together to make a solid rock. Now you've learned the 3 types of rocks: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. Where can you go in the state to find these rocks? Pick yourself up a geologic map of Arizona and happy rock hunting.
Coming up on the STEM journals, we put some old rocks under the microscope and look for some new ones out in the desert.
I'll have thousands of students.
I'll have a lot of teachers.
Many of these bright young minds will change the way we live in the future.
Maybe I'll be the one who finds a cure.
With STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math,
I'll have a great career. And maybe I'll change the world.
no doubt.
Copper Point is proud to sponsor STEM education because students who excel in science, technology, engineering, and math will solve the challenges of tomorrow. Copper Point.
After watching that video, I have a little bit better understanding about rocks and what you were talking about before. Tell me a little bit about your research.
So, in short, I study how mountains are built. One of my projects is in northwestern India in the Himalayas, which are the tallest mountains in the world. What we're trying to figure out is when that process started. So what we do is we actually go there, collect samples, and we bring them back here for geochronology, which is dating rocks.
You date rocks?
Yeah.
You know, I used to be a rock.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry,
Geochronology, it's dating rocks.
dating rocks?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to do that? Because I saw some really cute ones right over here.
No. Finding out how old rocks are. And that's important because we want to know how the mountains are changing through time, and we can find that out by figuring out how old the rocks are. We do geochronology by going out into the field, making observations, and then collecting samples that we'll bring back to the laboratory. We then crush those samples up and analyze really small parts of them. So I'm going to go back to the laboratory and start analyzing those samples now. But we're going to video conference you so you can follow along.
Oh, cool.
So once we come in here, what we need to do is choose the most appropriate grains for further analysis. This zircon needs to be measured so that we can analyze it. It's about 260 microns in length and about 90 microns across in width.
Zircons and apatites tell us how the rocks can actually move from deep inside the earth up towards the surface. The clock starts on a zircon at about 8 kilometers below the surface of the earth, and it starts on an apatite at about 2.5 kilometers below the surface. If we know when those clocks started and we know when we got the rock from the surface, we can tell how that rock was moving through the crust as it came up towards the surface where we could collect it.
Should I be wearing a watch? What do you mean by clocks?
Helium can come and go inside the crystal, but at a certain temperature, that crystal is going to cool and all the doors shut, and that traps the helium inside, and that's when the clock starts.
Okay, how do you measure that temperature then? Because all I see here is what looks like a pretty complicated flow chart.
This is our mass spectrometer lab.
Well, I call it the laser lab. There's way more to it than just lasers.
This is the final step in the process. This is where we actually extract gas from our individual grains, and then we can finally date the rock. We've taken a grain and we've put it in this teeny tiny packet that's loaded on the center of this wire. We actually heat the samples up with a very specific laser so that we really know exactly what temperature that helium leaves the grains, which really allows us to understand that clock we were talking about.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I'm quite ready to date rocks yet. But in the meantime, I'm going to watch this video on geological time and the rock cycle.
Did you know that rocks are constantly being created and destroyed? This process happens all around us all the time, even though we can't see it. And it's called the rock cycle. The reason why we have a hammer is so that we can have a fresh surface to look at. Sedimentary rocks form layers, and as these layers get stacked one on top of each other, the bottom layers can be heated and compressed and actually be turned into metamorphic rocks. This metamorphic rock is exposed at the surface, so it is subjected to the same weathering and erosional processes that will cause it to break down into sediment. Now that sediment over time could become a sedimentary rock. If it were to melt and form a magma underground, that magma can solidify into a new igneous rock. Now, if this rock were to be buried and be subject to heat and pressure, then it can be remetamorphosed into a new metamorphic rock. This is the sedimentary rock called shale. When you add heat and pressure to it, it will become a metamorphic rock we call slate. Add heat and pressure to the slate, it becomes schist. Add heat and pressure to the schist, it becomes gneiss. Right now in the rock cycle, this rock is an igneous rock. But with weathering and erosion, through wind, rain, and temperature changes, it will cause this rock to break down into pieces. Now, whether these pieces are big or small, doesn't matter. They may eventually form a sedimentary rock. This igneous rock could be buried underground where it would be subjected to heat and pressure and could become a metamorphic rock. It could also melt into magma. When that magma re-solidifies, it would form a new igneous rock. You might think that these rocks here are permanent, but they're not. Just as you change with age, so does the Earth, and that's the rock cycle.
Up next on the STEM Journals, we learn the ins and outs and ups and downs of rock hounding, and look at how rocks and minerals are part of our everyday lives.
Jack is a healthy, happy first grader. Loves Legos, loves baseball. As a parent, when your child is diagnosed with cancer and you think you're going to lose your child, you do not know what to do. The only place that I felt comfortable taking him was Phoenix Children's Hospital. The fear that first impacts you is fully taken away. Their sole goal is to make your son better. Jack is cancer-free because of the physicians at Phoenix Children's.
Geologists love rocks because they're like the Earth's most basic building block. But I just found out that amateurs love rocks too. Lynn Dyer has been collecting rocks since before I was born, and she invited me rock hounding. I don't even know what that is, but I'm down to learn more about rocks.
We've got extra bags here and some rockhound picks, and just grab one.
I'll take this one.
All right, let's go. Yeah, there's a piece of schist there. See how sparkly it is?
Are you like the only rock hound around, or are there more of you?
Oh no, there's many of us. In fact, I belong to a group called the Mineralogical Society of Arizona. You don't have to be a geologist to appreciate rocks and minerals.
So this seems like it would be a great activity for kids and families and stuff. I mean, do you get them outdoors, get them learning about the rocks?
Right, it's a great activity for families. We even brought some friends out today with us.
Lynn, there are rocks just everywhere. What am I looking for? Anything specific?
Not really. Today we're looking for just whatever catches our eye, whatever looks interesting
So
and pretty.
Up to the individual what they're looking for.
That's right. Watch your head.
Ooh, look at this one. Lynn, check this out.
Brad, that's from a cow. That's not a keeper.
So if I were to go rock hounding, what kind of terrain am I looking for? Where's the best place to look?
Well, we're in a wash right now. I like looking in a wash. The water can rush through here and the rocks hit each other and become rounded on their edges, and some of them are very pretty. And sometimes you even find black sand in a wash that has magnetite in it and often has gold you can find. That's exciting to think about, huh? Hey Brad, look at that one. That's really cool. Look at the colors in that.
I'm keeping this one.
You want to see some of the ones I've kept? I bet you'll like this one. It's ugly, isn't it?
Looks like nothing.
But it's a geode, and we hit it with a hammer. Look at the inside. Is that amazing?
This is inside of this rock,
Yeah, that's a real keeper.
and I feel like an official rock hound now.
Great.
So I've heard of collecting like baseball cards and stamps, but what is it about rocks that's so fascinating to you?
Well, it's not just because one rock might be prettier than another or more unusual looking. They're important to us. We use them every day. They're that important.
Lynn is right. Rocks and minerals play a major part in our everyday lives. Literally tons of rocks and minerals are used to construct houses and buildings in the form of concrete, steel, and drywall. Even the glass in windows is made of quartz and other minerals. If you flipped on a light switch or used electricity at all today, you could thank copper. Nickel and cadmium are used for rechargeable batteries. The long life batteries are lithium. Table salt, like what's on your food, is the mineral halite, which is mined from deposits in sedimentary rocks. Toothpaste uses minerals as abrasives to clean all the gunk off your teeth. The list literally goes on and on and on. But back to the original question.
Mr. Picciarello, do you have rocks in your head?
I don't have any rocks in my head, but I definitely have them on my mind. Rocks are all around us.
Arizona companies see a bright future, from high-tech jobs in aerospace to outer space, renewable energy, crops for the future, and healthcare for the coming decades. Arizona will need more than 150,000 workers in the coming years with skills in science, technology, engineering, and math. Copper Point supports companies prepared for Arizona's economic growth. Copper Point.
The Arizona SciTech Festival has amazing events going on all over the state where you can actually have a good time learning about science, technology, engineering, math. And you know what? The Arizona SciTech Cox Youth Reporters are going to give you a sneak peek on some of the cool stuff going on right here in our own backyard.
So, Mr. Senghi, why have you decided to open up Microchip to the public today?
One of the major accomplishments in Arizona has been the growth of its technology industry. We are a major technology company here with over 2,000 jobs. So we have opened up buildings today to show the public what we do and what we make here.
Well, thanks for opening it up, Mr. Senghi. I look forward to looking around.
Thank you.
I usually only think about microchips in computers. How does a microchip work in a car?
Well, when you think about a computer, what are you thinking about it? It's intelligence, right, that's added inside. Well, in a car, you're going to have to add intelligence to certain things so that they'll function properly. In the past, you used to have to crank your window. Remember that? Okay, well now we have a button we can push and that window will go down automatically or come back up automatically, and it'll even stop if there's something in the way. So that's what we do, is we add intelligence to these kinds of functions in a car so that they can operate that way.
It says how many microcontrollers are in this car. Aren't microcontrollers microchips?
It is, but a microchip is a very general term.
Okay.
Okay, a microchip can be anything from a very small function that doesn't have any control.
Okay.
But it might just be something that's like a resistor, capacitor, something like that. It's just micro, it's miniature. But a microcontroller is something that actually controls a function. It takes something from a sensor input and then does something, an action on that, so it can control your brakes, it can control your mirrors, all the motors in the car. Everything is based on the control function, so that's why it's called a microcontroller.
And it says there's a little competition going on, guessing how many is in this bad boy. So, how many microcontrollers are in this car?
Well, total microcontrollers, if you're not talking just microchip, but total microcontrollers, there's probably somewhere between 80 and 100.
Wow.
But you have to guess how many microchip microcontrollers are in here. So you know it's somewhere between 1 and 100.
It says on your website that you can put your hand on this and it won't get burned, but it can still boil water. Now, I must say, I've been looking forward to figuring out how this works for a long time. My next question should be pretty obvious. Can I put my hand here?
Absolutely. You can touch your hand right next to this and it will not burn. The heat actually is heating up the vessel itself. This technology actually is much safer than other traditional technologies. Rather than traditional heating with either electricity or gas, where heat comes from the bottom, is transferred up into the pan, what happens here is an electronic coil actually creates a magnetic field that couples energy directly into the pan itself. And what it does is it offers a number of advantages. With traditional gas cooking, the efficiency or the amount of energy actually making it into the pan is only about 30%. So you figure about 70% of that energy is going out into the room and heating up the home. Traditional electric heating, radiant style heating, is about 50% efficient. With this technology, approximately 90% of the electricity or the energy is making it into the pan or the vessel itself. So it's very efficient. This is something that's a very green technology and something that a lot of consumers are looking for.
Could the, everyday pan I have at home work on this surface, or do we need a special one?
It's possible the ones you have today will work. Again, the best way to find out is to take a magnet, stick it to the bottom of your pots or pans, and if it sticks, it's a ferrous metal and it will work with induction technology.
Hey, Kyle!
Hey, Mr. Senghi.
So what did you see today?
Oh my gosh, I saw the microcontrollers in the car and all the different functions the microcontrollers do in the car. I saw the induction oven where, you could put your hand there, it didn't burn it, but it could boil the water in a minute. I was amazed by the diversity of things that Microchip does in Arizona. And I must say, I am impressed.
Wonderful. Well, that's what we do here.